And welcome to CSL Denver, a space, a place, and a face of love. A spiritual community teaching ancient wisdom and utilizing universal principles to change our lives and the lives of others. I'm so glad that you are here today as we continue our monthly theme of curiosity as a superpower. Curiosity as a superpower. And today, as Bill said, we are looking at the phrase, the idea, the concept of the world is my oyster. Now, this phrase that was actually kind of retooled from Shakespeare, one of Shakespeare's plays, speaks to the idea that there are many opportunities and many things to accomplish if we take this idea of the world as my oyster. So it gives us that idea that if we're willing to work hard, if we're willing to be creative, if we're willing to be curious enough about the world, we can take anything and turn it into a pearl. Anything and turn it into a pearl. Now, that's a mouthful, right? Because we know that for a pearl to be created, the oyster first has to have something that's irritating it, right? It does not start from a point of comfort. It starts from a point of uncomfort, from adversity. And so we keep that in mind. But more importantly, this image of the oyster suggests that hidden deep within us, just like in the oyster, there's a superpower. There's something within us that allows us to change adversity into stepping stones, that allows us to take hardships into trophies of overcoming. Because these are the things that we need in life to move forward. And so when we're able to do that, and we have the ability to transform adversity into a beautiful gift, we realize that that is not only true for ourselves, it's true for everyone else, and it's true for the whole world. Now, being a good Florida boy, I love oysters. I don't, and I don't, some people don't like oysters, and I understand. It's an acquired taste, one might say. But the skill of the oyster is magnificent to do that, to turn that irritant into a pearl. And so we must be willing to take this example, not eat it, although I do eat them. I just said that. I want to make that clear. But we look at that metaphor of life, of how the oyster takes something that is discomfort. Now I'm sure, I'm going to close my eyes. You can raise your hand. I won't even see who it is. I'm sure everybody has had an irritant somewhere, right? That they just hated, or they couldn't get rid of, or they thought they got rid of it and it came back. That's this thing called life. And so when we look at the world as my oyster, we get the chance to see that it's more than just turning irritants into pearls. It's also about having the irritant in the first place, right? And so when we're allowing ourselves to call attention to this irritant and go deep within and find that wherewithal, find that solution, find that thing that allows us to turn that thing over, then we begin to step into a new way of living. Because no longer do we walk around in fear of being irritated. No longer do we walk around trying to walk a line that's so straight that we stumble anyway, because I can't get my feet in front of one another. Right? So this oyster, here I go again with these oysters. You don't have oyster bait. You can have raw oysters. You can have baked oysters. These oysters can come in various varieties. I like horseradish and hot sauce and a captain's wafer cracker. I mean, You're talking about heaven. We're in heaven when that happens. But that's how we have to look at that. This oyster can be served many different ways. It can have different complements or condiments. But it provides us with an opportunity to look at our lives and look at the various opportunities, the various possibilities that we have. Now, to do this, we must begin with the inner work. We must begin with the inner work. And so when we think about this phrase from Buckminster Fuller, Buck says this: you never change things by fighting the existent reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. Now just think about that. That we could stop the sermon right there. Don't try to change a model that's not working anymore. Just create a new model. The world is your oyster. You have the ability to change things in your life. This teaching, this philosophy says, change your thinking and change your life. I'm sure we've all had some experience where we got into a funk, we got an irritant somewhere, and the longer we dwelled on it, the more irritating it became. But the moment we had something inside us to shift the gear, it could have been a song, it could have been a movie, it could have been a friend that said, look, you've been down long enough. Let's go play some golf or whatever. Your mindset changed, and that irritant begins to change. 1 week, 2 weeks. A month later, you forgot about the irritant. And really, when something happens again, you're able to look at that and say, ooh, I know where I got the strength to go through this particular situation. It was because of that one. I turned that irritant, that piece of sand, that bad thing into something good. And so when we do this, we're able to as Bill said earlier, our founder says we have to treat and move our feet. We have to move away from the condition and look at the possibilities. And when we do that, all doors are open. At that point, it's like Aladdin's lamp. You rub the lamp and the genie comes out and you got 3 wishes. Now we're not talking about magical thinking in that regard, but that is a great metaphor to teach us about how we have the ability to change our mind, to grant a wish. To make a wish is really just creating a vision. It's another name for creating a vision, right? Because when you wish for something, you closing your eyes and you're trying to visualize. You're trying to think about something that is currently not in your present existence. And so when we look at all these old stories and these aphorisms of the world is your oyster, we have to go deeper. We have to go within, which is what the oyster does. It goes deeper inside to look for a different meaning, to look for more evidence, as we always say, the evidence of things unseen, right? And so when that happens, we begin to tap into a concept or connect with the divine at an intuitive level. The oyster does not think about, what am I going to do with this irritant? It may take a minute to figure out it's an irritant, but once it figures out it's an irritant, it goes to work. It starts turning. And that's what we have to do. Sometimes we have to sit with our issues. Sometimes we have to sit with our uncomfortableness. But these things have come to pass, they have not come to stay. Perfect example of what the oyster shows you. And so when we're able to tap into this curiosity and this intuition and allow ourselves to be present in the environment, then we can look at this phrase here by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And Bill read it earlier. It says, nature will not let us stay in one place too long. Nature demands the change in order that we may advance. When the change comes, we shall welcome it with a smile on our lips and a song in our heart. So by definition, the nature of reality is to change, is to move beyond. Imagine, and I know, we have a lot of problem with this, with the technology now, in terms of it being overwhelming. Not that it's a bad thing, but it's just overwhelming. Too many texts, too many Twitters, too many, Instagrams, and a bunch of stuff I can't even pronounce because I don't even know it. But if we had not moved on from wiretaps, if we had not moved on from the Pony Express, we would not have this kind of technology where we can share this message all over the globe. We have guests today from Switzerland, from Hawaii. It's because nature has demanded us to change, whether we wanted to or not. And sometimes we go kicking and screaming, but the reality is once we can settle in and take that thing that might be an irritant, we get a whole new perspective, a whole new level of that superpower kicks in, right? Because now I'm more curious. Oh, I can do this and send something to Hawaii or send something to Switzerland. What else can I do? What other kind of opportunities? The world is my oyster. What are the possibilities that we have available to us that we might not be taking advantage of? So when we see that we live in a spiritual universe that responds to us, that's a mirror to us, what we reflect to it reflects back to us. When that happens, we can step into the allness. We can step into the allness of God, and then we look at these verses from the Bible. Two great ones for this point. Proverbs 3:5-6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge God, and God shall direct thy path." And then Romans 8:28 says, "We know that all things work together for the good of those who love God, those whom he has called according to his plan." Now, I know that was a lot, so we'll just capsulize it real quick, right? So in Proverbs, it's basically saying, not that we shouldn't use our mind, not, lean on. It's saying lean into that intuition more than you do your rational mind. Because in my mind, I can make anything true. I can make it all true. And especially now with the internet, I can find something on the internet to collaborate anything I say. Right? They got this whole thing now called deep fakes. I saw a news article on CBS. They took prominent individuals and did a deep fake and supplanted words in their mouth, and the person was the actual person. They did a Tom Cruise one. They did a Obama one. They did one of some other actor. And if you did not know, you would think that person made the statement. Deep fakes, right? That's what happens when we get too rational. But then when you begin to step in, you use the rational for what it's worth. But then, there's a saying that goes like this: the mode of transportation you took to get to this building is not the mode of transportation you took to come in the building. Most of you drove or caught a public transportation to get you here, but you didn't drive the car into the building. You didn't ride your bike into the building. You took your rational whatevers to get here, is what that metaphor is saying. But when they come in, I need to go to a different way of understanding, this intuition, this way of looking at things. And so that's what this is speaking to, that we have to lean on the intuition, the deeper wisdom, the deeper understanding within us that's all have, that says, take that irritant, turn it into gold, turn it into a pearl, turn it into a business, turn it into a successful relationship, whatever that irritation might be. And when we can do that consistently, now we got something. And so when we can step away or step back and allow our oyster nature, if you will, right? Because we say nature is a reflection. We said it's a mirror of us. So we have oyster characteristics, we have whale characteristics, we have bumblebee characteristics, because it's a reflection. But when we can step into this oyster nature, now we begin to understand the ways that the divine works. And so when we look at this next slide here, it speaks to this. Ecclesiastic says, in the days of prosperity, be joyful. But in the days of adversity, consider God has made the one as well as the other, so that man cannot discover anything that will come after him. Basically saying, life is not always a crystal stair. And the oyster gives us a great example of that by saying, yeah, sometimes I get these irritants, but guess what I do with them? I turn them into pearls, and they're worth lots of money. And they are coveted. These are things, these pearls that I take out of my badness and turn into goodness are heirlooms. We pass them down into the family. Now, what better concept, or what better pearl, if you will, to pass down to your family as a legacy of these ideas of how to live life, of how to take adversity and change it into something else, right? So now I want to give 3 things that we need if we're going to do that. If we're going to live like this, if we're going to embrace our oyster nature, there are 3 things that the oyster does that we have to just do it. Like the Nike thing, got to get a swoosh and just say, just do it. Right. So the first thing is this. Is that we have to be patient. We have to be. Now, that's a tough one sometimes. Because I get that irritant and I want to scratch, or I want to pull it out, and I want to get rid of it right away. But sometimes we have to sit with it. There's a verse that says, trust in the Lord and wait. Trust in the Lord and wait. So that's another way of saying patient. And so when we look at this statement from Maya Angelou says this: you may encounter many defeats, but you must never be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, how you can still come out of it. That's what patience is. That's what patience is, to be able to sit with something, to learn from it, to move through it. And so then when we look at our oyster, right, it can take anywhere from 6 months to 4 years to create a pearl. And I know without even saying, what the variation or the difference is between the 6 month pearl and the 4 year pearl. That 4 year pearl is the mother pearl. It is worth lots of money, real smooth, has different colors or variations, because it has been patient enough to sit with that thing that it did not want and make it something valuable to itself. That's what we have. That's what we're called to do. But we can only do that through patience. We have to be patient. And then my phone and my tablet and my computer, patience is something in short supply. It's in short supply, because as soon as my phone, I cut it off, because as soon as it buzzes, I want to see what it is. Is it a news feed? Is it my wife? Is it my kids? Did I win the lotto? What's going on? Why is this thing buzzing at me? But sometimes we have to be patient, so I just have to cut it off. And believe me, if anybody knows me, from the time I was born, I have been 100% energy at 1,000 watts per day, every day. And so I know I have to turn off. I have to be patient, because my mind will just keep going. So when we can step into the patience and step into our oyster nature, if you will, we get the opportunity to start turning these things into pearls. Now, the second thing is almost as hard, if not harder, than the patience. It takes time. It just takes time. There's a verse in the Quran that goes like this. And the name of that chapter, that chapter rather, is called Time. And it says, verily, by the token of time, man is at loss, except those who come together in truth, patience, and consistency. Truth, patience, and consistency. And that's just time. Patience and time are like, like yin and yang. They're on the same wheel. One goes with the other. And so when we're able to step into that and realize what that really means, this quote from Booker T. Washington. We're still in Black History Month, and Booker T. Washington was a great African-American hero. He says this: success is to be measured not so much by the position that you have risen in life as by the obstacles which you have overcome. That's a measure of success. And that's what time does. That's what you do with time. You take your time and make sure, I'm not taking the shortcuts. How many of us are taking shortcuts that turn out to be the long cut? And we look back and say, boy, was I smart. Not so much, right? Because there are no shortcuts. Now, there are ways to increase a situation by putting it in a better environment, right? We right now we have these, but there's a cost. I want to say that before I even go here. There's a cost. I'm sure everybody goes in the grocery store and they see hothouse tomatoes. Hothouse tomatoes are grown in a greenhouse with a grow light, and they grow fast, and but the taste of a tomato that's grown outside organically, if you will, and one that's grown in a hothouse, they're both tomatoes, and you can get them from the same variety of seeds, but the taste is going to be a little different. It'll grow faster. I can get them to the market faster, but the taste is going to be a little different. I can sell them for cheaper, but the taste is going to be a little different. Because there are no shortcuts. We can make some adjustments to enhance things, but there's no shortcut. It takes 9 months for a baby to be born, and there are no shortcuts. If there are shortcuts, there are problems. And so when we step into that time factor, now we're moving in a way that allows us to slow down a bit. That gives us the patience. I got my watch on. My dad used to always tell me, sometimes you need to take that watch off, boy. Because it's always a reminder that I'm too early, too late, or right on time. And all of it's just a figment of your mind. So how do we begin to step into this oyster nature of being patient and allowing time to do what it needs to do? The way we do that is by this third point, and that is focus. Focus. Right now, the sun is shining bright here in Colorado, and it's a beautiful day. And that, you need to put some sunblock on and so forth in the sun, maybe my shades, because it's very diffused. But if I take a magnifying glass and take that diffused sun and focus it down on this paper that I got my talk written on, this thing will burn up. It'll catch on fire for being focused, for allowing this thing that's everywhere present, i.e. God, spirit, the thing itself, however you want to call it, if I take it and focus it, it gives me a whole nother perspective, gives me a whole nother way of living life. And both are valid, the diffused and the focus. But when we want something to happen in a certain type of way, we focus. And by doing that, we become like the magnifying glass, like the oyster, we become a conduit for change. We become a conduit for change. I'm sure everybody's heard, be the change you wish to see. This is how you do it. This is what it means. If you take it and put it in some practical, is focus, right? And so when we look at this this next slide here, it really captures Helen Keller. I'm sure some of you or all of you may have heard of Helen Keller. Blind from birth, did some amazing things. And this is what she said: when one door of happiness closes, another opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. Now, this is from a blind woman who couldn't see from a very, very young age. She tapped into her intuition. She took an irritant of not being able to see like we are and realize and understand that doors are open and doors are closed and things are happening, but are you focused on the wrong thing? Or are you focused at all? That's the question. Are you focused at all? Forget about the right or the wrong door. That's what we need here. So don't ignore adversity or make excuses. Begin working on it and allow it to spark your curiosity. Excuse me. So that you can see the greater possibilities. So that you can begin to open up to a wider vista and then bring it into focus when it's needed. That's when the world truly becomes your oyster. And you can have them baked or fried or raw, and it won't really matter. And on occasion, if you have them raw and you open it up, you might find the pearl. You might find the pearl. And so when we're able to step into patience and time and focus, we activate our oyster nature. We activate this ability to turn irritants into pearls. The master teacher Jesus did it this way. He said, I can turn that water into wine. Same concept, a little different application, but the same concept. It's to turn something that has some value at some point, but now it needs to be transformed into something else to fit another purpose, to fit another cause, to fit another reason. And when we do that, we're stepping in a way that allows us to be more than we ever thought we could be. And so to sum up this whole idea, Bill gave us that prelude in his opening. It says, we do not change all the patterns of our thoughts in a moment. Rather, it takes place little by little until gradually the old thought patterns become transformed into new ones by some inner alchemy, by some inner thing that turns that sand into pearls. This is from Dr. Holmes. And so that's just, as the saying goes, by the yard is hard, but inch by inch, anything's a cinch. Anything's a cinch if we just take it inch by inch. And so that's how we embrace our oyster nature. That's how we move forward in life so that we are productive, so that we are happy, so that we are building community where everybody gets the chance to create their own pearl. And so if we step into that, we think about, as always, when we're here, we have calls to action. We take these ideas, we take these concepts, these metaphors, these things that allow us to look at life different, to activate that curiosity superpower, and then we step into a call to action. So when we look at our call to action, before we do that, I want to say, we're talking about a genius and an oyster pearler, transformer, adversity person. There's this guy named Walt Disney. Y'all ever hear of that guy? You ever hear Walt? Like I said, I'm from Florida. I remember when Orlando was an orange grove. That's all it was. My relatives lived just a little south of Orlando, and we used to drive from Tallahassee down to Sebring, Florida. And as far as I could see, and as a kid, I was amazed. As far as I could see, on both sides was just citrus fruits, kumquats, oranges, tangerines, tangelos, grapefruits, lemons, lime. I mean, really, as far as you could see. Walt Disney came in there and made a change. And so he said this: all the adversity I've had in my life, all my troubles and obstacles have strengthened me. You may not realize it when it happens, but a kick in the teeth may be the best thing in the world for you. And if you want to read a story to understand this, read Walt's story, because he had a couple of failures before he got the mouse in gear. And so now when we look at that and we take the call to action for this week, and we look at these 2 points. This week, spend some time in meditation and bring to the surface that which is causing you discomfort. Don't hide from it. Don't run from it. Call it up. Look at it. Figure it out. And then once you do that, practice stepping into your intuition to transform the sand in your life. Whatever that discomfort is, whatever that thing is, spend some time in intuition, thinking about it, and try to transform it. And you don't have to do it tomorrow, i.e. the transformation. You do have to do the meditation, right? Even do that maybe today. But the transformation part, we already know it's a step-by-step, inch-by-inch kind of thing. And the thing that really hits home is that, have you ever been doing something that's a little bit, and then all of a sudden, boom, you get a breakthrough? That's how it happens. And that gives you the strength. So when we can do these things for this week, and any week, really, meditate, look at what's discomforting you. Is it my relationships? Is it my job? Is it my image of myself? And when you find it, and you don't have to get the biggest one in your life, right? So you set yourself up for failure. But find something that you really want to work with that you can practice on. And when that happens, life will change. You'll be able to turn those bits of sand, those irritants, those adversities into pearls. So with that, we have this affirmation for the week that allows us to anchor this before we go into prayer. And it says this: I am a catalyst for change in the world, and that change is happening now. I am a catalyst for change in the world, and that change is happening now. Because the moment the sand gets into the oyster, it immediately starts making the change. Let us pray. So we take this moment right here in just pure silence and creativity. That moment where patience and time and focus comes together as an infinite mind that has the opportunity to do all things. That divine presence that goes by many names, that is called on in many religions and is activated in many cultures. We call that forth right now to give us this internal power of transformation. This power that allows us to take things that seem unwanted or unneeded or just a plain old irritant and turn it into something that's grand, that's glorious, that benefits all. So we lean on the everlasting arm of God, however you perceive it, so that it can activate in us our oyster nature, our ability to transform, our ability to be more than we ever thought we could be. And I know that to be true not only for myself, but for everyone in this room and all those that may be online and those who may see this recording later. Because it is that communal understanding, it is that communal vibration, that energy movement that allows each and every one of us to be a support for each and every one of us, to be our brothers and sisters keeper, And so I know right here and right now, and I declare that today I am a catalyst for change in my life and the world. That I am here on divine purpose. And so I give thanks. Excuse me. I give thanks for this opportunity to bring this forth, to highlight this idea, to awaken with each of us this superpower called curiosity of how do I make life better? And so it is in that attitude of gratitude, in that air of thanksgiving, that I release this prayer into a law that's always operating, that's always working, that it returns multifold. And so I know this is already active in our lives. So I just release, I let go, and I know that it is absolutely so. And so it is. Amen.